Hey! A Knight Templar burning at the stake, and a date. Let me see. MCCC-XIV. That's 1314. A Knight Templar burning at the stake, and a date. The Templars were demonstrating a pretty good grasp of physics. If the dissolution hadn't happened, we'd have had cold fusion power last century. Hello again, Father. Hey, thanks.
It is my pleasure, monsieur.
What was the writing on the chalice?
It was not writing, my mistake. It was a coat of arms. The remarkable thing is that it seems very familiar.
Yeah?
Oui, I think I have seen it on that wall tomb in the far corner. That winged horse is quite distinctive.
Did you know that the center window conceals an image of a man burning at the stake?
The Burning Man?
What, you knew?
That there was a hidden image? No. But the church has a reputation for being haunted. Many times, people have claimed to have seen a burning man in the window. But when others they look, there is nothing. Perhaps the light has to be just so for the figure to appear.
Yeah, or maybe you need a special lens. Catch you later.
Au revoir, monsieur.
It was hard to believe it was the same chalice. Now the light gleamed off its perfect surface. No, it couldn't be. Could it? Now that my attention had been drawn to it, there was no mistake. There was no name on it, but the coat of arms was undeniably the Pegasus of the De Vasconcelos family. I'd found the last resting place of Don Carlos. My eye was drawn to the biblical references carved into the edge of the tomb. Hey, maybe these biblical references mean something. Psalms 32:7, John 4:11, Corinthians 1:4-5, and just one more. Psalms 22:21. I may not be perfect, but I've got a memory like a steel trap. The chalice had led me to these inscriptions, but it looked like a happy coincidence to me. After all, the De Vasconcelos arms were already on the manuscript. Nope, I was still convinced that the chalice had some significance all of its own. Hi, André.
Hello, Georgie.
What do you make of this cup, André?
It's a 14th century communion vessel. Spanish, probably.
You sure know your onions. While I was in Syria, I discovered a strange pagan statue. It was like a head with 3 bearded faces. Horrible.
That sounds as if it could be Baphomet, the idol described by the Templars.
The poor Knights of Christ had an idol that looked like that?
Allegedly. The description of the idol came from the evidence extracted by the Inquisition. Mind you, not one statue or idol was ever found on Templar property. Until now, that is. Just last month, a statue of Baphomet was unearthed right here in Paris.
Where?
At the Institut Hermétique de Nerval. The statue is beneath the foundations. It was discovered by some workmen while renovating the building.
Can you tell me any more about the statue of Baphomet?
It's a fearful image, even now, a bearded head. The base of the statue is carved with Templar symbols. One of the workmen noticed a curious stain at the base. He claimed it looked like blood.
Blood?
That's right.
Thanks for your help, Andre.
You're welcome.
The gate was surrounded by some pretty fancy ironwork. I couldn't climb over. The painter had a pot of gunmetal gray primer hanging from the barrier.
Hey, monsieur! Get away from my paint pot!
Okay.
I should think so. Meddling with a man's paint pot. Puh.
The painter didn't seem to regard the painting as too important. Not as important as a cigarette break, anyway. Excuse me, could you help me?
What is it?
I've got a few questions.
A greasy tissue. Don't get it too close to my cigarette, monsieur, or there'll be a conflagration.
I was pretty sure the shaken shock had shot its bolt in Syria. I have some plaster of Paris.
Amazing.
I've got a sewer key.
I used to work in the sewer.
Oh? What happened?
I had a cigarette break in a pocket of methane. A manhole cover landed on the other side of the Seine and I was sacked.
Has a guy calling himself Merlin been nosing around?
Was he wearing a t-shirt with "My name is Merlin" on it?
I doubt it.
Then how the hell am I supposed to know his name just by looking at him? Huh?
Have you seen this man before?
Yes, he asked me a lot of questions, just like you.
Have you ever seen anything like this?
Yes, it's a communion chalice. I know, you know, I used to be an altar boy.
You?
Yes, me. What's so funny about that?
Nothing. I have a red nose.
Imagine.
What does the word Templar suggest to you?
Templar?
Nothing.
Nothing.
You're doing a fine job.
Merci. I have my professional pride.
I don't think I've ever seen a Gauloise smoked so stylishly.
It's a natural talent.
I'm being sarcastic.
I'm being indifferent.
You're very good at that as well.
Merci. Vive l'indifférence.
So, what are you doing here?
I am having my break.
Yeah, I mean when you finish your break.
When I finish my break? An interesting concept, monsieur.
You'll probably need to think about it.
I could have another cigarette while I consider. Perhaps tomorrow too?
Okay, let me put things differently. What were you hired to do here?
I was hired to keep the archaeological dig in the basement of this building clear of debris, and to touch up damage to the door frames with my little pot of paint. It's a very responsible job. Unfortunately, I'm not a very responsible person.
So what do you know about the excavation?
I know they won't let me in to do my job. I would complain to my union, but là...
You couldn't be bothered to join.
Right. Tell you what, though. I'm surprised at the sort of people interested in this excavation.
What's unusual about the visitors to the excavation?
None of them look like archaeologists to me.
Do you know what an archaeologist looks like?
Three-piece suits, crocodile-eyed attaché cases, Rolex oyster.
But no archaeologist dresses like that.
Quite right, monsieur, quite right.
So, who are they?
Who cares as long as they pay me?
Be seeing you.
Au revoir, monsieur.
The doorway was full of assorted old tea chests, cardboard boxes, and so on, all empty and all uninteresting. The doorway led to an old utility closet that had lost its door. There was nothing interesting in there. A dumpster with some debris in it. Yep, that was definitely debris. I couldn't see any use for a collection of dirt and half bricks. There was a closed door with toilet scratched into the cheap veneer. There was a closed door with toilet scratched into the cheap veneer.
That door's locked, monsieur.
A thermostat was mounted over a radiator. The radiator was pumping out heat as the thermostat was cranked right over to full. No wonder it was warm in here, even with the door open to the chill of fall. I couldn't imagine what I'd achieved by turning the dial. That guard had been put here to guard something. My guess was that the excavation was behind that door. I didn't think that the guard would just let me waltz past. Besides, I had a hunch that door was locked. A guard stood by a door I guessed led to the excavation. He looked pretty pompous. Well, not so much pretty, just pompous. Hi? Excuse me?
Oui?
Look, a tissue stained with grease paint.
Ah, just what I've always wanted. If you give me that, you can enter through the door.
Really?
Of course not. What would I want with an old tissue?
I was going to have to get rid of this thing. It was dead. I got this plaster from Ireland.
Not an exciting souvenir.
This gadget is a sewer key.
So it is.
Do you recognize this name?
Merlin. No?
Have you seen this man before? You have?
No?
I thought better of showing him the chalice. He might be on the conspiracy's payroll, and I didn't want to risk it.
Oui? You have...
A sudden urge to sing. Care to join me?
No, no singing in here.
I've got a red nose.
Oh.
So, what exactly are you doing here?
I'm guarding. You expect to find me shearing sheep?
Take it easy. I just didn't realize you were a guard. I'd like to know what you're guarding, please.
That's a secret.
It wouldn't happen to be an archaeological site, would it?
Are you asking me or telling me?
I'm telling you.
Then why ask?
I had a feeling this was no normal hole in the ground. It sure is hot in here.
I have to have the door open to allow the workmen access, so why not? I turn the heat up.
You could wrap up warm.
I have my gloves if it gets cold, but why bother when it's warm anyway?
What do you know about the Knights Templar? There was a long pause during which the guard said nothing. Then he said,
Nothing.
"Nothing at all?
Is this a test?
What, like a history pop test?"
No, like a test.
Okay, yes, it's a test.
Then I know absolutely nothing about the Templars.
The guard was being amazingly evasive. It was going to take more than goodwill to get past him. Trying to get into a locked washroom. I had the strongest feeling of déjà vu. "I'd like to use the washroom, but the door's locked."
Oh, that's no problem. You can have the key.
"Thanks." "Talk to you later."
Au revoir, monsieur.
There was a big old boiler used for heating the building. The thing felt really hot. Big demands seemed to be being made on it. I didn't need to get near to tell the toilet needed cleaning. Being in a charming comfort station like this made me think fondly of the toilet in Syria. That place was kept in pretty good order. At least, it had been until I vandalized it. Still, it was all for a good cause. A bin stood in the corner. It didn't look like it had been emptied for a while. I wasn't that interested in what might go into a restroom's garbage to investigate. A hand dryer was mounted on the wall. If the club Alamut had used one of these instead of a roller towel, I'd probably still be stuck in Marib. A filthy wash basin hung on the wall. I didn't want to use that unless I really had to. Oh boy! Dirty soap! How do they do that? The cold tap's washer looked to have failed. It was just dribbling down the sink. It was the bar of soap I'd stolen from the washroom of the excavation site. I made an impression of the big key and the cake of soap. I carefully sprinkled the plaster into the soap mold I'd made of the key.